Well, hello, everyone, and we are back with an all-new Enough Already podcast. I'm Fingers Malloy. She's Tracy Connors. Want to welcome our listeners, not only in this country, Tracy, the United States, in cities like San Francisco, Milwaukee, Sterling Heights, Michigan, Marietta, Georgia, but our international listeners, Tracy.
International, I say.
Yes.
Like a space station international? Or?
Is there still an international space station? Has that fallen to the Earth yet? The Russian
No, it's
station?
up there.
It's still up there? Oh, that's good.
Yeah, we catch rides with the Russians, I believe.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Well, we got people in the last week listening to us from the United Kingdom, Canada, New Zealand, Sweden, Belgium, and 4 other countries that SoundCloud will not tell me where they're listening. So, welcome to...
It just says other?
Yes, it just says other.
Cool. Maybe that's the name of a country we're not aware of.
Maybe.
It's possible.
What are we up to now? I think, 184 countries? 192?
I think it's
160?
I think it's 100. I want to say 192.
192.
Yeah, there's an internet quiz site called Sporkle, if you ever get bored. And they have tons and tons and tons of quizzes, and they have a Name All the Countries of the World quiz, and I think they give you 15 minutes. And it's a fun thing to try to see how many you can get. I average a little over 100.
Look at you.
Yeah. Well, then you realize that there are all these little tiny island countries, and you're just like, God, what's it like to live there?
Like Caspiar.
Correct. And other.
Well, Caspiar
the other islands are beautiful.
Caspiar doesn't exist anymore.
Oh.
It sank.
Okay. Well, then like Tatooine.
I take you were not an Andy Kaufman fan.
No. I find him irritating as hell.
Oh.
Sorry.
God. I'm cranky for a number of reasons. I haven't had a carb in like 3 days.
Oh, you're back on the diet.
Mm-hmm.
God, you yo-yo more than Oprah.
Right?
Yes.
I can't help myself. I mean, the Atkins diet for a dude really works. I mean, the weight just melts off of you. It's crazy. 3 days, I've lost 7 pounds. But carbs are like crack.
Mm-hmm.
And I get the shakes walking by vending machines that have cinnamon rolls that were probably baked 2 years ago that are wrapped in cellophane, and they want to charge $1.50 for them, and it may as well be the crack addict walking down the street, and there's a 4-pound crack rock that they're walking by, and they just want to go smoke it, lick it, make it their own. So it's impossible to stay on this diet if you're weak-minded, and I'm a weak-minded individual. So I'll be on this for another day or two, and then I'll go off it and eat it. They've got new Big Macs now. Have you seen this, Tracy?
No, I don't follow fast food.
Oh, it was a big announcement. The McDonald's, McDonald's, for a limited time, I guess, is bottling their special sauce for the Big Mac.
I thought you were going to say bottling Big Macs. They're putting them in NutriBullets, and now you can just drink them. So no chewing required anymore.
Genius! Wouldn't that be fantastic? No, I don't know if they're giving these bottles away, but they're... And I don't know what they're calling these sandwiches, but they're coming out with 2 more Big Macs. It's a small Big Mac without the second patty and the middle bun, and then they got the large. It's like a huge Big Mac that has 2. I think it's 2 quarter-pound patties, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, they come out with
investigate.
this. Well, yeah, they come out with this. They make this big announcement in day 2 of my Atkins diet, because they're assholes. And then on top of it, it's a limited time offer with these Big Macs. So I'm going to make the mistake of trying to lose 40 pounds right in the middle of this Big Mac rollout.
Yeah.
Got great timing.
And then you'll go back on it, and then it'll be time for the Shamrock Shake.
The Shamrock Shake is the best thing at McDonald's. It
Yes.
really is. It really should be sold year-round.
I agree. But I guess novelty drives sales, so.
Yeah. Well, I assume, Tracy, that you went to Washington, D.C. With the other sisterhood of the Yaya Pants or whatever that is.
Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants and the Yaya Sisterhood are two different stories.
They are?
Yes. I don't think the Pants had a book, but the Sisterhood did, and I read it. It's interesting.
Was good?
It was okay.
So I take it you went to Washington, D.C. With all because
no.
I was told that you aren't a real woman.
That's okay with me.
if
They
you're-
want to call me that.
If you don't side with these
If that's
women.
what real women look like, I don't want to be one of them.
It's hard for me, and I said this during the whole Tea Party craze. It's hard for me to take you seriously if you're dressed, with, in 1700s garb and wearing a powdered wig.
Yeah, it's like cosplay.
Yeah, and it's hard for me to take you seriously and your political argument seriously if you're running around wearing a vagina hat.
Or an entire costume.
Yeah.
Head to toe.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. No, it's embarrassing for them. But I would like to thank them because they've woken up several of my friends.
Oh?
Yeah, they're just like, oh my God, these people are ridiculous. Get over it. I think things are going to be okay. And this is kind of embarrassing and pathetic. And to lump our whole gender together in that mess is just unacceptable. But this is what happens when you play collectivist games. All women. Except the pro-lifers. And Hillary, by the way. Did you know this? They said, please don't come because you went to the inauguration.
Yeah, they'll throw you under the bus.
Yes. Don't normalize. That's one of their new things. Don't normalize Trump. What do you Okay. He's the president, guys. I think.
These are the people that are walking around dressed like vaginas,
Yes.
telling other people not to normalize the president of the United States.
Yeah, normalize our wacko behavior. But we have to back up to the inaugural first
Yes.
before we can get to these
you're
ladies.
Right. You're right. Didn't see any of it.
What?
Eh.
Wow.
Yeah, I woke up late and then I had to work. So I didn't see the parade. I didn't see the speech.
Well,
I did see some of what was going on in real time on social media, which was fun. Mm-hmm. I believe one person in my feed described Hillary as if she was looked like she was chewing on a wasp.
that's pretty good. She had a real shitty look in her face when she was waiting to be announced and walked out. And then when she got out on the dais, she held it together pretty well.
To the chant of lock her up.
So awesome. Just so amazing. And it's a potential now. Remember last week we discussed her getting a pardon and that did not come to pass. She's out there hanging in the wind, just waiting. What's going to become of me?
Well, it's okay now because they closed the doors to the Clinton Global Initiative. So,
Yeah.
I mean, so
Well, they don't
no
need to
harm, no
hide
foul.
political staffers in places anymore.
That's true.
So whom is down to just no jobs now, I guess. She went from 4 to none.
Wow. Well, good for her.
Right? 3. I can't remember if it was 3 or 4.
Well, she had time to march.
Oh,
on
yeah.
Saturday.
I bet you she wasn't invited either.
Oh, that's true. But no, I take it you soaked in the entire day? Were you in front of the computer watching?
I was in front of television.
Oh, wow.
Because as everybody knows, they count every television in the Nielsen rating, so I needed to be there.
Yeah. Okay.
So ridiculous. All that stuff is just an estimation. I don't know why people get so upset about it.
You would think by now that they could actually.
Well, I don't want them to.
Oh no, I don't want them to either. But
I'm sure they do. I'm sure my television listens to me. I know my phone does. I know that Alexa bitch is just waiting to rat me out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I watched the inauguration part and then flipped over to other things for a little while and then came back, watched some of the parade, which is boring as hell. And then the balls. But the inauguration itself was pretty amazing. Wow. I mean, Trump's speech was all of, I hear between 14 and 16 minutes, which is perfect. Mm-hmm. After years of watching Obama ramble on and on and on about all the awesome. But to sum it up, he just came out, like, thanked everybody that was there, you know, old presidents, all this. Thank you, Barack and Michelle. And then it was kind of like, but F all of y'all. Your time is over. We're giving this country back to the people. Thank you very much. Done, done, done. I don't think he said the word I once.
I believe he did. Someone was actually tracking that, and it took him somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 9 minutes into his speech before he used the word I.
That makes sense.
Not E-Y-E. He didn't say anything about an eye for an eye. He was actually saying I, referring to himself. So
Sure. But it's a lot of we're going to do this, we're going to do that kind of stuff, which I guess is the populist stuff that everybody's so upset about. But he's right. I mean, that's the whole point of the system. It's ours, not theirs. Now get out. But it was one of the nicest FUs I've ever heard. And it was ballsy to have them sitting right behind you and just being like, no, basically these people screwed everything. They got rich while you guys got effed over. You know, and everybody fixated on the fact that he used the word carnage in there after describing, you know, the cities are a mess, you know, poverty's everywhere. I love this line, an education system flush with cash, because I love the word cash. So he worked that in there, which leaves our young and beautiful students deprived of knowledge. Mm-hmm. So, and that's when this carnage stops right here, right now. And so that was greeted with a chorus of, oh my God, this is so dark.
It's dark.
It's dark. Well, okay. It's true. Tell me what's wrong with it.
I mean, how long? Apparently they weren't paying attention the last 18 months, because that's pretty much been the theme of his entire campaign. But hey.
Well, they tried to make that. The theme is, this is the reality that they lie about every single day when they show you phony numbers about, employment rates and all those kind of things, and the Obamacare successes. And it's a joke. It's a sick, sick joke. And you're talking about a guy that spent his entire adult life dealing with bureaucrats from one agency or another, because that's what you have to do when you build buildings. And then probably stroking checks to the IRS, because yes, he did pay taxes.
No, he didn't pay any taxes, Tracy.
7 or 8 digits. I don't know. They're still hell-bent on getting these damn tax returns of his.
Yeah.
Which, okay, go ahead. Don't care. This is all distraction, and he doesn't seem to be distracted by any of this. I mean, the fight over the crowd numbers was a little bit frivolous and silly. I mean, but they're still harping on it days later. And just like, he just keeps cranking out the orders, having the meetings.
It's amazing to me. The mainstream media is obsessed with arguing with him about crowd numbers. They didn't seem to be quite as obsessed with arguing with Barack Obama about employment numbers or Obamacare numbers, but this crowd thing has really got them their panties in a wad, and unfortunately it's got his panties in a wad too. It's not all that unreasonable to think that Barack Obama, the first black president elected to these United States, would draw a bigger crowd in Washington, D.C., a predominantly black town, which votes about, 93% Democrat?
I think it's higher than that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no shame in that. And
no.
For some, but that's going to be it's one of his weaknesses. You know,
but is it though? Because he moves along. They get in that little fight and then they just get back to work, but the media obsesses about it.
Yeah.
And it lets him get 5 or 6 steps ahead of them.
I guess. I just don't. and I wasn't following a lot of this. How much he tweeted about it. Did he tweet some stuff about this? It's like, oh, what are you? Are you tweeting about this? I mean, what is it? You're the president. I hope I hope you're right, and I hope that there's a method to the madness here, and this isn't just pure ego getting out of control, where he's got to challenge everything. It just doesn't make any sense to me that, at least on his end, he can't control the media if they want to talk, for 4 weeks about crowd size.
Sure.
But if he keeps responding to it, it's like, oh God, let it go, dude. Seriously.
Well, I think it's pretty much blown over at this point. Because now the new thing is he's still talking about how many illegal votes were cast. So that's the latest. Holy shit, can you believe it? After a solid month and a half of Democrats running around saying the Russians hacked our election, now it's really dangerous that he's saying that there were illegal votes.
Yeah. You got John Lewis saying that he's an illegitimate president. That's
yes.
Cool.
Yep.
That's not a threat to democracy at all. But
nope.
It would be nice if we could get some hard numbers on this. I mean, you saw reports out of Detroit. They couldn't even count the votes.
Yeah, because the voting machines had registered 300 votes, even though only 50-something ballots had been cast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that adds up across the country. Yeah. Plus, I mean, it's stunning, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit to this DNC chair forum, but they were talking about voter suppression really worked this time around, of course. and they mentioned, I think it was Texas maybe, and North Carolina. Voter suppression was awesome. It went to, it did the job. But I think that was Tom Perez that mentioned this, and he said, but Oregon's got it dialed in. I mean, they have vote by mail.
Oh, good God.
Oh, my God. That is the system that is most lends itself to fraud, in my mind.
Of course.
Having seen the absentee ballots, I mean, that's basically everybody votes absentee.
It's awful.
But that's the only way to keep people from being too scared to vote.
Scared of what?
I have no idea. This is their thing. And this is a concerted effort by the Republicans to intimidate people and keep them from the polls. And we should have been mobilized against this. Okay.
You had a story in the Evernote that, you're seeing this throughout the Democratic Party, where they're trying to make sure some in the Democratic Party are trying to limit the amount of white voices in leadership.
Yes. That DNC chair forum was a thing of stunning beauty and confusion. I could only make it through about 45 minutes of the damn thing.
Yeah.
So Joy Reid, who, is known for being a stable, reasonable person, was the host. Mm-hmm. And it was all about the section that I watched. Maybe they pivoted, but I don't think so, because that rant that's being shared everywhere by Sally Brown from Idaho, the one white lady on the stage, happened later, I guess, than what I saw. So it must have been the entire thing was predicated around what we can do to get more voters of color, which is now what we're supposed to call black people, I guess, and black and brown, and maybe Asians get lumped in there. How we can get them to turn out to vote. And Joy Reid is seemingly annoyed that the Clinton campaign focused their attention and money on getting whites to turn out to vote. That's what she believes went down, and they should have spent more trying to engage communities of color in the election. Do you know what the solution was that they kept saying? He kept coming back to what could have fixed this and turned out more of the community of color vote.
More Beyonce concerts?
No. Beyonce was not mentioned.
Oh, Beyonce wasn't mentioned. What about
No.
Jay-Z? Jay-Z? Was Jay-Z mentioned?
No.
Oh. I give up.
Running ads on urban radio.
Oh, of course. That would have done it.
Yes. Can you imagine Hillary, Secretary Hot Sauce? the ads that she would have cut. I mean, she couldn't resist slipping into a black scent when she went to those churches in the South. That's where we get our lovely, I ain't no ways tired. You imagine her? What was, you will remember this, the stupid things, chilling in Grand Rapids.
Oh, yeah. I'm just chilling in Cedar Rapids.
Cedar Rapids, yeah. We would have had more of that. And surely that would have gotten people in communities of color out to vote for her, no doubt.
Well, I did actually hear one Hillary Clinton ad that was designed for urban radio.
Yeah.
And it was a sassy black lady. Like Jack A. from 227. Yeah,
Hillary. Vote for Hillary.
Ew.
Hillary.
But yeah, I heard it. I was like, oh, okay. All right. That, for the 3 people listening to urban radio, I'm sure that'll be effective.
Oh, urban radio is pretty damn popular, I have to say. But okay. I mean, the pandering that they require of these candidates is absurd, and it's the problem with the DNC period. And you saw it at that march, and I saw it at that forum. They've taken identity politics to the point where they have to go and talk to these different groups on their own and promise them the things that they want.
Right.
And then it becomes, okay, who gets their stuff first? And that's the issue. I mean, that's why when I see that march, I'm like, okay, great. This is some big mass catharsis, I guess. We're going to dress up in costumes and go cry together and pretend that we're actually going to affect change, when that's never going to come to pass because they can't get their act together. Whereas the Tea Party kind of had a united front and some issues and a game plan and understood how to play this game in the political realm. Getting people elected to change things, to do X, Y, Z. Like, we want Obamacare gone. We want taxes repealed. We want to cut down the size of government. You could usually focus on about 3 things to get done. But with them, the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on.
Well, we had a sister rally here in Indianapolis. And they didn't do a march. They just all met at the Capitol. And they had speakers. And, of course, the topics, it wasn't just abortion, but then it was other stuff like day laborers, farm laborers, making sure that they get $15 an hour, and just you name it, one grievance after another that they were bringing up at this rally. And clearly this rally had nothing to do with women and everything to do with progressivism. And why can't they just be honest about it? That's the thing that just drives me nuts. Oh, we're all inclusive and everyone's invited and it's okay if we don't agree on everything. Well, it's really not okay. We don't agree on everything because you shut out the pro-life people, and then you had people from I saw people in the march saying, well, no, we didn't do that. There were pro-life people that were marching. They just didn't talk about abortion. Oh, okay, that's nice. You can come along with us as long as you shut your fucking mouth.
Well, that's what this woman was saying at the DNC thing, this Sally Brown chick. White people need to just shut up.
Yeah.
Including myself. She's a white woman saying this. We need to just listen to marginalized voices. Why? I mean, if you've ever watched one of these things where they do that, remember the mic check days of Occupy? Those things would go on for hours. And I remember having chats with them when I went and was just kind of played dumb and was curious about things. Mm-hmm. There's no leadership here. Okay, how do you guys make decisions? Well, we discuss it. How long does that take to accomplish if everybody gets to weigh in? Oh, a couple days. Oh, okay. I'm not scared of you guys as a political force at all. You're just going to turn on each other eventually because you don't really have a set of core things that you all agree on that you want done first. And then we can get to the rest of the long list that never ends, because they are like Steve Martin in The Jerk at the end of that movie when he loses all his money and he's sitting there crying behind the desk. And then he says, I'll be okay. If I could just have this lamp and this and that and this and that. It's like, 6 and 7-year-olds when they just get one thing. Oh, no, no, no. I would be happy if I just had that. I would never want anything else again except for this. And then that thing. And then this thing. And then that thing. So they're insatiable. It's never going to stop. It's so wonderful to just see them lose their minds and still not grasp the reality of why they lost. Not once in that DNC forum did I hear the specter of Hillary Clinton and the crime bill from the 90s raised. Not once.
What about? I'm sure they talked about Obamacare, right?
No.
They didn't? It had nothing to do with it? Because everybody loves Obamacare?
Yes. Well, we need to expand it further, don't you know?
That's true. I'm seeing it on Facebook. You got the freak out.
Oh, it's amazing.
And what I'm worried about, I read it from I'm doing my best not to jump in because I get being upset about what happened if you're a liberal. Mm-hmm. And the last thing I wanted in 2009 when Barack Obama got inaugurated, I was sitting there on Facebook bitching about having my lefty friends rubbing salt in the wound.
Sure.
So I've just sat back and I'm letting them vent because, I'm not tired of winning yet.
No.
So, I'm seeing stuff on Facebook. One friend said, I was asked why I marched. And men don't understand what it's like to walk down the street in fear, having your car keys in between your knuckles, thinking you're going to have to use them. And I thought to myself, wow, I didn't realize that apparently during the whole Barack Obama administration, women were walking around not having to worry about being attacked. Donald Trump is president for one day, and all of you women are apparently terrified that you're going to be attacked in some way because of President Donald Trump. And I apologize to you, Tracy, for not taking the idea that you are oppressed seriously.
I don't take it seriously either. Oh. So I guess I should apologize to myself.
Yeah, you should, really. I didn't know you were a self-hating woman, apparently.
Pretty much.
But, I'm seeing a lot of that. I've got friends that are, benefiting from Obamacare.
Was there air quotes around that?
Well, they're getting the subsidized plan.
Oh, okay.
Which, back in my day, I'm going to start talking like a 98-year-old man, but you didn't go around bragging that you were on government assistance.
Right, but I don't think they even connect that.
No. And they don't seem to care that their fellow Americans have had their health insurance completely go into the shitter, and they're spending a ton more money, even though they were promised that they were going to save, what was it, $2,500 a year?
Yes.
That's cool. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I got mine. That's all that matters.
It's pretty much my takeaway from all of this. And I, too, have resisted for the most part. I'm seeing some real hysterics on Facebook. And I've taken my lefty friends out of my feed almost entirely because I can't resist those kind of things.
Right.
But in the past couple of days, there's some that I've left in there because they usually don't post anything political, but now they've turned political. So I saw a piece about, Trump executive order overturning the Mexico City, whatever the hell they call that thing, which is basically we give money to international NGOs that then go teach people family planning that includes abortion. And so one of my friends had written, this is why we marched, because look at this. Like, we're under assault, our rights. I'm like, what? You want our money to go pay for abortions in the third world? Like, this is sick shit. You're talking about $500 million. And yes, it's supposed to be, you're not allowed to use the money to provide abortions. Okay. Well, how about you just pay my rent and then I will spend the rest of my money on booze? Would that be an effective alcohol treatment, you idiots? You can't silo money off like that. It's absurd. So it's just, it took everything I had. I wrote something and then I deleted it because I wanted to just stop. Stop.
Isn't it amazing how they seem to care about women in other countries only when it comes to abortion?
Of course.
They don't give three shits about how women are treated in Muslim countries.
No.
But
No, it's all about abortion.
it's simply
100%.
I don't want to. I don't want to pay.
I don't want to pay any foreign aid. How about that? I don't care. If you guys want to do it, you can send checks. There's nobody stopping you from doing that. But this forced charity stuff is not. I'm not down for that at all.
That is what the left is all about. The freak out over the idea that the federal government is going to cut funding for the National Endowment of the Arts.
Yes, we're never going to have art again.
Listen, I don't want to pay for your art. I don't want to pay for your uterine maintenance.
Correct.
I don't want to pay for your radio and your TV. Mm-hmm. Pay for this shit yourself. Now, how many people voted for Hillary Clinton? What was it, like
64, 65 million?
Okay, I think I looked it up. The National Endowment of the Arts, their budget last year was like $150 million. If it means that much to you, then you get all your Hillary supporters to chip in $3. You'll have $180 million to do whatever the hell you want to do with art. But the idea that art did not exist in this country until the mid-'60s, when the government started to help fund it, is absurd. Yeah, listen, we've been podcasting now, this show, for almost a year. I've been doing internet radio for 6 years, 7 years, almost 7 years now. Why shouldn't the government fund my podcast, Tracy?
I don't know. Maybe we should apply for an NEA grant.
I mean, really? I mean, PBS, NPR, some of it would survive.
Yeah,
some
like
of it
Sesame Street, which now is on HBO.
Yeah. It's amazing. I think that, there are a lot of people that listen to, what is it, All Things Considered?
Yes.
The morning show. Whenever I'm in D.C. and I'm in a cab, it seems everyone is listening. All the cabbies are listening to NPR.
I want to see the stats on how many single car accidents somebody was listening to NPR. Because I swear that will lull you to sleep.
Oh, yeah.
They're the worst. Like good morning. Welcome to This American Life. This week, we're going to learn about mung bean farmers in the Midwest.
But between the National Endowment for the Arts and NPR and PBS, pay for your own shit.
Right.
I mean,
it's bundled with my cable package. Are they not getting money out of that deal?
You would think.
We got bad deals going on, Fingers. Bad deals.
I mean, what will you do, Tracy Connors, if PBS is taken off channel 602? What are you going to do? You're not going to have any more entertainment
Continue to not
options.
watch it.
Yeah, but it's for the poor. Do you understand?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Poor people. That's what
they need to be educated.
Yeah.
And they provide educational programming.
Good God. I do enjoy some PBS.
Do you?
American Experience. I enjoy watching that from time to time. I watched it the other night. They had, it was the assassination of Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, fun times.
It reminded me of things I'd forgotten about his co-conspirators.
Yeah, well, that was the Steven Spielberg movie, Lincoln. But since you don't watch movies.
I did see Lincoln.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was all about the co-conspirators. Decent.
I don't remember that part of it.
Yeah, it was. They were in jail for half the damn movie.
Lincoln? Were there two different Lincoln movies that have come out in the last 10 years?
It's possible. But the one that Spielberg did, I mean, I think that was it. Or maybe no, you know what? Maybe I'm confusing the two. You might be right, because there was one about the conspirators.
Oh.
Because everybody forgets that there were multiple assassinations planned for that evening.
Yeah, they were going to go after the Secretary of State and
the Secretary of War and Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of them they got to, but he didn't die. And
I believe it was the Secretary of State, and I don't remember his name. But he had his jaw was wired shut. and one of Booth's co-conspirators snuck into his house and stabbed him in the face. And he was permanently, he survived and was scarred for life, but apparently the wire helped save his life because it stopped the knife from doing more damage. But I enjoy, American Experience. American Experience.
I liked it as a kid when they would run Anne of Green Gables marathons.
I can't say.
But that's about it. Yeah, no. I can't imagine that you would relate to the story of a young orphan girl growing up on Prince Edward Island.
Oh, my God. So, fun to shit yourself.
Yeah, it's stunning that that's an option, which they just can't even comprehend. But I think a lot of them believe that this bill, this Mexico City executive order, not a bill, affects people here. And the only thing it affects is the budget. That's $500 million that we're not throwing out the window.
Yeah.
So, oh well. And I bet you if I ask them, where do you think this money goes? What countries does it go to? None of them would understand that almost all of South America is out of the picture because abortion is illegal.
Yeah, they point to Europe all the time when it comes to other things. And, Europe, too, they have
really, way stricter than our laws.
Yeah.
I think it's 12 weeks after that. No.
By the way, you people keeping score at home, the National Endowment for the Arts was founded in 1965 by LBJ. Annual budget $146 million, Tracy. To fund art. We need to again. I guess we need to try to get a grant from the NEA. Wonder how much they would give us for our podcast.
Trump president now, you never know.
And then bitch when we don't get the money.
Yeah. Throw a massive fit and let's get to marching.
Maybe if we did a podcast about how to take a picture of a crucifix in a jar of piss, then maybe we would get funded by the NEA.
Oh, that's art. I wonder if Yoko gets NEA grants for her solitary light bulb installation that she stood under and sang like a whale.
I don't know if it's true or not, but there is a perception in this country that people, the popularity of art is on the decline, so that would be, to me, another argument. Like, well, geez, you're if it's true that people were more interested in art, say, before 1965.
Well, how do you gauge such a thing? I mean, really, is it museum visits?
I guess. I mean, how else could you really get an idea as far as how popular art is? But
right, I think that sounds made up.
Yeah, you hear that all the time about school funding, and one of the things that libs gripe about is the first thing that's cut in the budget. It's not administrators. It's art teachers.
Right, art and music.
So, I don't know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, I don't know. We're not going to have schools anymore in a year, so don't worry about
That's true. I guess
everything's going away.
I guess a couple of Democratic senators sent Betsy DeVos a 1,400 question questionnaire that she needs to answer before.
They're making her take the SAT?
Oh, I should have had that pulled up, but yeah, that they're going to make it, they're a complete shit show. They're so panicked that she may become the Secretary of Education. And
well, I love that they make it out to be a kind of situation where the secretary of these departments actually goes and does the things.
Right.
Like that she's going to be in classrooms or writing textbooks or something. I mean, I saw she tweeted out something from the inauguration, and I saw people spreading around on Facebook a correction of her grammar. in the tweet. And they were like, this woman can't be in charge of education. And I mean, it wasn't incomprehensible. It wasn't hideous. Like, she didn't spell words wrong. She didn't use fake words like supposedly or irregardless or anything like that. It was just total nitpicking of the grammar. And they're like, oh my God, what is going to happen to our school kids? It's like, do you realize that almost half of them can't read when we're talking about inner city schools when they graduate?
Yeah.
They couldn't even read that tweet to know that it was grammatically incorrect. So I'm sorry, but, tamp it down, kids. You're being ridiculous. And Ashe was absolutely right about that stupid Grizzly quote. I saw that shared around because Occupy Democrats ran with it, saying like, oh, my God, she thinks schools need guns because of grizzly bears. What an idiot. So that prompted me. I had to say something about that one. And then somebody came after me that I don't know, being like, oh, of course, you would stand up for anything that these crazy people want to do. And yes, that's it. It's not saying, hey, guys, let's get the full context here because you guys sound stupid for spreading this. I'm trying to help you.
Help me.
Trying to help you not look
you.
like people running around with their hair on fire over absolutely nothing. And the other one is Robert Reich, that little piece of shit. That hyperbolic little technocrat pain in my ass is out with a piece. I can't remember if it was Washington Post or New York Times or somewhere with some prestige about Trump. They floated the idea of moving the press corps to a different room across the street from the White House. They want to have a larger room. And I saw Gingrich talking about it on TV, and he said, look, they want a larger room so they can have more outlets there. That sounds like a good thing. And also invite in members of the public that are allowed to then ask questions of Sean Spicer. But according to Reich, this is proof positive that Trump is a fascist, because this is what fascists do. And it's just stunning. I mean, I watched I don't count the Saturday fight that Spicer had with the press when he went out and yelled about the numbers and them lying about the bust of MLK being removed. I count the Monday one as the first press conference. And it was so funny to watch Jonathan Karl from ABC basically ask Spicer to take a pledge of fidelity. Please promise us. Can you tell us right now that you will never lie to us from that podium? And I thought, what? I mean, it's so amazing to me. And I think hypocrisy, as far as the eye can see, is what we have in our future.
Yeah.
These are the people that sat through press conferences with Jay Carney, Robert Gibbs, and Josh Earnest, just flat out lying to their faces and never question it. Not once. All the Obamacare lies, the lies about the Iran payoff. And those are just the most recent examples that I can think of. And then you've got the other department heads doing it. I think it was at Defense when they were saying we're sending troops into Syria, I believe. And somebody pushed back and kind of was like, wait a minute, you guys said no boots on the ground. Obama said that, I think it was 17 times. No, that never happened. I mean, but they're gonna nitpick on this. Spicer, tell us that you're never going to lie to us, please. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Whatever. You got it, guys.
I would have said, I pledge to you that I'll be just as truthful as people representing the previous administration.
Yeah. No, I thought Spicer handled it okay. He's like, I'm going to come up here and tell you what I know, and things may change after the fact. But I will always come out and tell you exactly what we know at the time that I'm talking to you. Which is fair. I mean, I don't, I expect this to be an adversarial relationship, and I appreciate that. I want them pushing back on power. But they've been licking boots for 8 years, and so it's really hilarious to see them all of a sudden be like, we want you to tell us that you will never, ever, ever lie to us. Okay.
Oh, my God.
You got it, guys. You got it. So let's talk more about that crowd size again.
Well, and the thing is, too, unfortunately, part of that job is you have to lie.
Well, we prefer the word spin.
Well, no, sometimes you have to lie. I mean, when it comes to national security issues and things, that the public may not need to know right at that time if we're about to, go into some sort of military conflict. And, of course, the press wants to know our complete strategy before it happens. May not want to tip off the enemy, but hey, I'll be completely honest with you because the first press briefing, I gave you my word that I would tell you the truth and never lie. What the hell is this? What are the children?
Well, yeah. They are totally babes lost in the woods. That's why you hear them begging, please say that you'll never lie to me. Please. No, it wasn't that whiny in the tone. It was more combative than that. But it's just an absurd thing to say. Because we all know that everybody that stands at that podium is going to have to bullshit to some extent.
Right.
But I think this whole thing is just so fascinating. Like all of a sudden the press is out to get them and they're going to do everything, of course. And the hypocrisy with the voter fraud stuff that Trump is talking about and the Russian hacking.
Well, do you really think it's beautiful. Millions of votes?
I don't know. I don't know that it's millions, and I do think that he anchors everybody out that far so that when the truth comes out, they'll be like, oh, okay, well, it wasn't as bad as he said it was, but it's somewhere. I mean, I think hundreds of thousands wouldn't surprise me. You're talking about, 120 million votes, 130 million votes cast. And seeing that documentary that those young jerks put out about the California primary and how shady that whole operation is, it wouldn't surprise me. I just don't know how you prove a lot of it.
Right.
That's the problem.
I have a very hard time believing it's millions, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if it went into the hundreds.
They won't even allow the voter going through the voter registration. They won't allow that. They've tried to block that stuff from happening. And if you'll remember, Trump talked about this before the election, and they got very upset. But what happened was local news did a whole bunch of in-depth investigative reports on it. And I remember watching the Philadelphia, I think it was maybe CBS local, had gone through voter rolls, found a whole bunch of dead people on there and saw that they had voted, 10 years after they had died.
That'll happen.
Yeah, they're super voters. That's what they call people that vote in every single election.
Yeah.
And so they go and get their family members on camera and say, did you know that your dead mom was voting? No. Well, okay. How did that happen? And then they put some guy from the mayor's office on there to just explain it away. Oh, it's probably just computer errors and glitches. Oh, my ass. So there is a lot of data that needs to be cleaned up, but then they talk about, oh, it's the purging and all this stuff. And just like, really, is it that difficult to get this together? And this was the woman from Philly, the reporter asked that. It was just like, wait, can't you guys compare, death records with voting records and clean these things up? Well, that requires cooperation across multiple different agencies. We couldn't possibly do that. Oh, no. That sounds totally reasonable. It's amazing that you guys can figure out how to collect the money that you get when people die.
Right.
I'm sure that goes right to your coffers. There's no missed penny anywhere when we're coming to take ours, but we can't possibly clean up voting rolls. So I don't know. I hope it does something in that regard. And, there's the True the Vote people have been working on this kind of stuff for a long time. And it's so easy. They wanted to make it really easy to vote, to register to vote. So you've got kids that go to college in a different state that can be registered. The states don't cross-check, I don't believe, these things. So I don't think it's 3 to 5 million, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was close to 1 million.
I'd be shocked if it were that high, but I don't
know. I mean, the O'Keefe videos, they have that guy talking on camera about how they used to use buses, but now those raise too many eyebrows. So they have a fleet of cars that they give people so that they can drive to multiple polling places in multiple states and vote.
It costs a lot of money. I mean, we're talking 1 million votes.
I understand.
But it look,
but
again.
You're talking about they raised over $1 billion.
I think if I were him, and he has moved on, but I just have a sense that this is going to be a lingering issue with him. He's just going to bring it up from time to time. That I think it grinds him that he lost the popular vote to her.
Well, he lost the national popular vote. But if you look at state popular votes, which is where you actually need to win, he won more of those.
Yeah, well,
I think he won 31 state popular votes. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, Hillary's the president of California. You take California out and
New York.
Yeah, I mean
let him have her.
Yeah, really. I mean,
exit. There you go, baby.
Yeah, there was a poll that came out just a couple of days ago saying 1 in 3 Californians want a secede from the union.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Bye. I'm serious.
Oh, I hear you. And then everybody, all these lefties that want to ruin the Midwest, and they're ruining Texas. Just flood to California, and you can live in your utopia.
Mm-hmm. It'll be broke in a matter. Well, it's already broke.
Yeah.
So I don't. But good luck. I mean, I love it that you guys are now all 10th Amendment people that believe secession is totally legitimate, which I have no problem with whatsoever. See you later. I'll help if I can. But I love the pushback on that too. It's just like, well, Hollywood would be gone then. What do you mean? It's still there. It's
No.
Meryl Streep and like, oh, these people wouldn't be able to make movies. You guys shoot your movies in Canada now anyway.
No,
because it's cheaper.
They'll do what they can to make sure that the United States doesn't get their movies, right?
They'll tariff the hell. Yeah. Impose these massive tariffs on Trump's United States. F you, buddy.
Uh-huh.
We're not exporting to you guys. You can't possibly watch movies and shut down the internets. It's just so much fun. And we haven't even had this going on for a week.
No. The freak out has been amazing. My favorite part is out of this whole thing, and I'm seeing this all over the place. You're seeing people with changing their abbeys.
Mm-hmm.
There's some sort of a resistance movement.
Yes.
And one of my favorites is one of my friends, We the People. Okay. It says We the People, and I'm trying to... Damn it, it's getting blocked. Are greater than fear. We the people are greater than fear. As if their whole movement isn't fueled by fear.
Yeah.
A black man cannot leave his house without worrying about being murdered by a cop.
Mm-hmm. I can't leave my house without my keys in my fist.
Right. Mike Pence is going to drive around in a white van, rounding up the gays to take him to conversion camps, and they're going to put a computer chip in your uterus, Tracy. I don't know if you know that. And they're going to ban birth control. And but we cannot. We're greater. We the people are greater than fear. I mean,
well,
Rachel,
I love
Rachel Maddow the other night was going on and on about this. It's the inaugural speech was dark, and we can't. And that was the theme throughout the whole campaign. That his whole campaign is based on fear. And then she turns. And after the break, we're going to come back and talk more about Hitler's inaugural. I mean, really? Oh, yeah, you people aren't about fear at all, are you?
No. And I just love the framing of this. How are we planning to resist? What does that look like? Are you guys going to go on a tax revolt? I would love to see that.
Well, I mean, today there are Greenpeace protesters in D.C. hanging a giant banner.
I saw this.
On a crane that
Resist.
says, resist.
Do you think Sharpton's going to jump in front of this? I mean, every time I see that any story with this resist, I just can't help but think about him with the resist we much. But what these are the things. It's such empty rhetoric from them. What does resistance look like?
Well,
you guys can be oppositional.
I understand the environmentalists going nuts because they really believe that we aren't going to be able to live on this planet 60 years from now, and he's going to gut the EPA. And oh my God, he doesn't care about the environment. He cares about jobs and business over the environment. And so I could see them freaking out. The idea, the thing that drives me nuts, and we got Scottie Nell Hughes on in a minute, but what drives me nuts is, my friends who lived through George W. Bush and the Republican Congress. I don't remember when I would hang out with them talking about having to go into the back alleys to get birth control pills.
And he was way more pro-life. I actually believed him when he said that. Trump doesn't give a damn about any of this.
No. And with that, we should bring on Scottie Nell Hughes.
All right.
And ask if she had any problems getting birth control in the 90s or during the George W. Bush administration. I won't ask her such a personal question. It'd be awful.
No, that would be rude.
That would be rude. I'd ask you that.
Yep, nope. Not a problem.
Not a problem.
No.
Let's see if we get Scottie on. 10-1, we get her voicemail.
Okay. You're on.
Hello, this is Scottie Nell Hughes, and I apologize for missing your phone call. I will leave your name and number, and I will do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you, and have a blessed day.
At the tone, please record your message. When you've finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hi, Scottie Nell Hughes. This is Fingers Malloy and Tracy L. Connors. We were calling to talk to you, and we were hoping you were going to answer your phone, but I bet that you wouldn't, and so I won, although Tracy didn't take that bet. Doesn't really matter. We'll try to call you back in a little bit. Thanks. Bye. Ugh. If this were Larry O'Connor calling her from WMAL, I'm sure she would have answered the phone. Okay, Scottie is telling me to call back now.
Okay.
So we'll see if she answers her phone this time.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, I understand, you know. If this were a terrestrial radio show, you would have picked up the phone right away. Since this is internet radio.
No, far from it. I'm trying not to share a jail cell with Hillary Clinton in Virginia.
Oh, they're coming for you?
Yeah, they're coming for me. Stupid speeding ticket on the way home from the inauguration. It's going to be the biggest pain in my, you-know-what, ever.
You can swear.
Virginia
it's
is
fine.
like, I can't, because, now that I'm a hardened criminal, I'm being fitted for my orange jumpsuit, I think.
Sweet.
I'm going to be the first person that's ever sent to the electric chair for speeding on an interstate at 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning. It's coming. I can already hear the conviction happening. Terry McAuliffe is firing it up.
They aren't going to put you in an orange jumpsuit. They're going to put you in a vagina suit. That's
Yeah.
Oh, that's even more dangerous. That's even more scary. Do you know what it's like to explain what that is on the woman's head to your 10-year-old son?
So what did you say?
Do you want to know how that conversation went?
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, my husband looked at me. We got back to the hotel room and says, if that just turned our son gay, I'm going to be so angry because I would never want to talk to a woman after what we just saw.
Oh, God.
Jeez. Well, tell us what you saw.
Well, let's see. It was a lot of plastic. Oh, are we talking about just the march, or are we talking about specifically
Well,
what was on the woman's
since
head?
you brought it up, we'll talk about the Women's March first before we go to the inauguration. You were there for a little while after the inauguration, and you got to soak in some of the Women's March on Washington, so I'm curious as to what you saw.
Well, let me just say this. I don't think our founding mothers of the 19th Amendment, the suffragettes, worked as hard as they did, and fought for what they did so that women could wear vajayjays on their head and cover their little girls with fake blood and, scream curse words at 10-year-old little boys and flip them off. I don't think that's what they were thinking, and yet that's what I saw on Saturday. What the interesting part was prior to that, I had gone to the Saturday morning, gone to the Vietnam Memorial and the Korean Memorial. And there was a mix of pink, not the pink, the JJ wearing hats, but people with the pink knitted hats. You could tell that they were definitely headed to the march, as well as the Make America Great Again hats, the families that were post-inauguration touring the sites at these memorials. And I observed they really were very respectful of each other, and at times even talking to each other in nice ways, reflecting, because they were bonded together around and reminded about, how horrible war can be and how we lose, our family members in war. And so that was actually quite an amazing moment. I thought, okay, this isn't going to be so bad today. Then it was like, I don't know if what Ashley Judd said triggered the computer chip in their head to fire on and their eyes went red. And They were like robots. They turned into just rabid dogs that afternoon when we saw them again, and they were screaming and they were mean and they were snarling. I'm like, what happened to these women? These were not the same women I saw earlier that I would love to have a conversation about. It just shows the power of the word, and it was quite disgusting, actually, because that was not what I've never seen a bunch of women marching for the right to basically kill their baby, or more importantly, kill other women's babies. That's not feminism to me. We could have used all of that girl power for so many other issues that we should be talking about, that affect all women, and we're not just so politically charged.
What issues are those, Scottie? Because I'm fascinated to hear how we're still oppressed, what rights we still don't have.
Well, it's not even that. I think that this would have been a good time for us to talk about, if you have that many women together, I think it would be a good time for us to talk about we've advances in medicine, as in like breast cancer research and the money that we should be using for that. Not saying that the men are spending it, but just raising awareness for that. Raising awareness for the rape culture that does happen, and vice versa. But once again, not blaming men, but just, doing what we can right now to encourage women to make aware of how they don't get into those situations. Talking about, I think even having women in engineering and math and sciences, that would have been a great platform right there that we should be talking about, encouraging girls to go into those fields of study. Things that were not necessarily so politically divisive that made people not listen to anything and totally dismiss, and actually, if anything, reiterate why we elected Donald Trump. We could talk about education and why more funding needed to go into the classrooms for these students instead of going to the bureaucracies and the hell that Common Core has done for our children. There were lots of issues that I would have loved to see a million women gathered together marching for. What they ended up standing for was not, I think, in any way productive.
Well, could you figure out what they were standing for? It seemed like an incoherent mess to me.
Well, and what's funny is the day before, we had gotten caught in the resistance parade. And, oh, my God, that looked like the Exorcist, Halloween, every horror movie you've ever seen marching down the street of Washington, D.C. I mean, it was pure horrific, the words and the demons and the pictures that they had out there. And they just kept coming and coming. And I realized that that's what, that these were folks that, probably either didn't vote, or if they did, they were, supporting Hillary Clinton or any other Democrat. I think what the women march was ultimately, it was not about protecting women. It was all about they're very concerned for some reason about their abortion funding going away. And for some reason, they think that that's what women are. That's what the women's movement stands for today. And they couldn't be farther from the truth.
So they were rude to your son. Was he wearing Trump gear, or was it just the fact that he had male genitalia that pissed them off?
I think a little bit of both. He definitely had on Trump gear. He had on a Trump. Now, I'm not going to say that I didn't do this kind of on purpose, not for him, but because we were going to inauguration, but it was cold outside. So I gave him my Trump campaign jacket. So he had on his Trump stuff. And then I put on his head the Trump tennis, Trump Corporation tennis hat. So, I mean, you couldn't look more white boy than my son did. I get it. But at the same time, it's still a 10-year-old kid. And I would not, he's still out there. And I think it definitely, they probably would have acted the same. I don't know if they would have acted the same towards my daughter if I had her. But once again, try explaining these kinds of comments. And yesterday, I live in a very suburbia area. All of a sudden, I get a text from one of my girlfriends that says, I was just called. 2 boys started screaming the F word at lunch today. And I'm like, what? Yeah. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she said, well, supposedly they were screaming F this, F that. And these are 2 kids that I've known forever. And that's not how their families are. And so, I just have to wonder how much news did they watch this weekend, because that was everywhere. Every sign had F Trump. People were screaming F. I mean, just because, I love it, the liberal hypocrisy is just because Trump said something vulgar 11 years ago that's indefensible. It's like they've given them the right to be as vulgar and as crude and say and do whatever they want now. And that is 100 times worse than what he said back then. And I think that's the culture that's unfortunately starting, that they're just gone rabid.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw quite a few of those signs, and I thought to myself, oh, clearly you people are easily offended.
The snowflakes that, that I don't think there's anything white about any of them in the way that they are not pure. They're not holy, and they try to act like they're the Virgin Mary. And I'm like, no, you really aren't. I mean, go look at the pictures right now of Miley Cyrus and some of the get-up that she's worn. And go look at some of these people that are like, oh, we're so offended because Trump said that they wanted to grab my... And I'm like, do you see the movies that you're in? Do you see how you act in Hollywood at parties? Because I see the pictures. TMZ publishes those pictures, and you're worried about what Trump said? Come on.
Yeah, these people have made a career off of coarsening the culture, and now they're offended by it.
Absolutely. And so what do we do about it? How do we rein it back in? If you haven't noticed, there's kind of been a couple of nuclear bombs, and I mean that in a obviously not literal way. Trump is doing right now. I wondered how he was going to handle his first 100 days. I mean, when I have Joe Scarborough this morning saying, is there anything left? If you're a little progressive, you don't even know where to start right now. And then I have another Democrat who came on air and said, can you just take a nap? Because what he has done is he's exploded, and he has kicked off every liberal progressive group. They don't know where to go right now, what to focus on. Where in the past, Republicans have used this as a strategy, okay, we're going to say we're going to eliminate this progressive agenda. And, of course, then they get attacked, and then the next week they put out the Trump's like, screw that. I'm going to unleash all holy blitzkrieg, put out 10 things. You guys are going to have to separate to try to even conquer, and it's going to be weakened, and I'm going to get them all through. I mean, it's simple business strategy that these folks say they can't predict the next 4 years of Donald Trump. I can. The only thing that I can't predict is how the media and the politicians are going to respond to him. That's what's unpredictable.
No, and I do think some of these little side fights, like about the crowd size and the illegal voting, is just a complete distraction to get them to focus somewhere else while they just keep plowing through, signing these executive orders, getting business leaders in there, getting union leaders in there, and actually getting stuff done. I mean, I think they're stunned.
Ding, ding, ding.
At how fast he's moving.
And you figured this out. I mean, I think we're pretty smart ladies. I know we're not as smart as fingers. But it's not rocket science to figure out what all this is about. I mean, of course, why did you bring up crowd size? It's the same distract and awe thing that he did in the campaign. Of course, it's so they can sit there and gnaw on that issue while you're seeing this whole other thing go through. And they fall for it time and time again. The media is better trained, I guess, than most people's dogs on how to sit and roll over, because that's exactly what he's doing. Meanwhile, the American public's watching the media going, you people are ridiculous. You're absolutely a clown show. I mean, he's playing them like a cat, and I would say he plays the media like a cat and a mouse before the cat decides to eat the mouse. Just hit one paw one way, hit him another, give him another swipe, and then just swallow him whole. Great.
So how was your experience in Washington, D.C. before the Women's March? Tell me about the inauguration and how many inaugural balls you attended.
Well, it was fun. It was nice. This is my second one that I had done. I had done George W. Bush's and covered that. The difference, I think, was so funny is we had this narrative with this, that we were told that there was going to be nobody famous at this at the inauguration. So what do? I walk into the Florida Ball, and I'm like, wow, that is a great cover band for the Beach Boys. Gosh, they sound so good. It took me about 5 minutes to realize, no, that really is the Beach Boys. I was like, oh, that really is the Beach Boys. Just because I've been told this narrative that nobody of any sort of status, not saying that, well, I guess the Beach Boys are status,
Absolutely.
wanted to be there. And I was like, okay, I know I'm blonde, but, I fell for this trick. And then, I was at dinner, and the next table over me, I'm going, I know that voice. I looked over, and there's Flair and Drescher. So, it wasn't necessarily the Hollywood gala that you saw at the DNC or with any of the Democrats, but it was still just an interesting, time just to watch and see how America, it was more focused on being patriotic and the great things about America than necessarily the celebrity.
So Fran Drescher was there?
I know, Fran Drescher. Isn't that interesting? Fran Drescher was there. And, but she doesn't actually talk like we all hear her talk, but you still could tell the remnants of it. You can hear the remnants there. I know that voice. But no, it was a good time. What was interesting, and this is the other side of it, is, well, yes, on Facebook I would see a lot of the grassroots. The truth is, we've elected a president that came with a lot of strings. A lot of our cabinet members are folks that you and I and all of us have interacted with for the last 8 years. Whether we're talking about Senator Jeff Sessions, whether you're talking about Tom Price, these are folks that we've gotten to know at all these different events, AFP and CPAC, and what I'm sitting back and I'm having to come to a realization with is that I don't think the grassroots, and it's not all about getting credit, but I don't think those activists that have just been the grunt workers and the hard workers and have taken so much pain for the last 8 years are getting enough credit for getting this man elected and for getting these people put in the cabinet positions. Because, and if anything, the Women's March on Saturday reminded me that's nothing new. We did that in 2008, 2009, 2010 in those numbers. And meanwhile, we were also organizing in our local communities to engage, and we were continuing the issue. I don't think the grassroots conservatives or grassroots libertarians are being given enough credit for this election. I think we've had establishment Republicans come in and at the last minute take full claim that it was the GOP that got Trump elected, and it was, these people are being, and I'm like, no, it wasn't you. If it was not for the grassroots game plan that you said didn't exist, really existing, we would never have Donald Trump as our president today.
Yeah, no, he's pretty
and that's
much
frustrating for me to watch.
Right. I get that. And I understand being annoyed about the whole thing. But to me, it's like, great, keep that secret locked up, because I don't want the left to figure out how to do this. I don't think that they can, because their list of things that they want is too long. Whereas I believe that the Tea Party was able to boil it down and just say, we would be happy with cutting taxes, getting rid of Obamacare, maybe some term limits in there, returning to constitutional order, those kind of things. Those are simple things to focus on and rally people around, and not all this nonsense with like, we need free birth control, free college, everybody gets health care, right, all that stuff. I mean, it's just never ending. We want transgender rights protected, transgender bathrooms, just goes on and on and on. So you have this mess that you can't get anything solid out of and build a platform on and rally people around. So I don't think that they're going to be able to latch on. We saw Occupy just fall apart. They don't have anybody. I mean, you could have argued, I guess, that if Bernie Sanders had won, maybe that would have been due to them. But they don't know how to get their political acts together. Somebody just jumps in front of their parade and runs away with it.
Absolutely. And now you're seeing, I just saw this came across, that scientists are organizing their very own march on Washington after Trump has banned scientists at the EPA and other federal agencies from speaking to reporters. If you thought that the Women's March was the last place you wanted to go meet your future spouse or pick up somebody a date, the Scientist March is the second last place on earth you want to go actually meet somebody and fall in love with. I mean, this is, geeks rallying on D.C., and I'm a geek, but good gracious, seriously, children, this is not the way that you handle it. And I think you're right about that. I want to make sure that it's just frustrating, because I remember CPAC 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and, all of us kind of in the movement to a certain extent laughed at and made fun of. Mm-hmm. And, you guys are just, you're that, and even during this campaign season, the alt-right, which none of us are that kind of way, but they still made us out to be in that way. Sure. And yet here we have a man that was sworn as president. And as I looked at some of the people sitting behind President Trump as he's being sworn in, it made me a certain degree of angry, because I'm like, you do not deserve to be up there. Let me go find the podcast, the little small talk radio host from small town Ohio that for the last 8 years have just put their blood, tears, and guts into getting their listenings, their viewership up, and their audience engaged. Those are the folks that deserve right now to be sitting behind and sitting up there on that stage, not you elitist DC politicians who got us in this place in the first. But what do they know? They're not listening to me.
Right. But Trump is kind of the stand-in for all of that. He takes the place of all those grassroots guys. I mean, we pulled somebody that was never a politician into that realm to fight on our behalf, because they were never going to do it.
Absolutely. Like I said, it's just one of those. I just want to make sure that, and he will stay that way. And that's the good news about it. It's going to be interesting here in the next few weeks when if something doesn't get accomplished, or if he notices even someone like a Paul Ryan. These Republicans are scared because they know he is not going to hold back calling them out. He'll probably call out Republicans quicker than he'll call out the Democrats, and he'll do it via Twitter. He'll do it via Facebook Live. And I think that's why I joke. I feel like they put Metamucil in the congressional chili because you've seen more action and more running around of these guys than we've seen the last 8 years.
Well, you can follow Scottie on Twitter at Scottie N. Hughes. You going to be at CPAC here coming up here in a month?
I hope so. Who knows? I'm not, the rate's already going through. It'd be interesting to see how CPAC is this year. Because if you remember last year, it was very much an anti-Trump fest. As much as I love the Schlaps and I love Matt was trying to rein it in. So it will be interesting this year to see the reaction of all these folks and say, okay, and hopefully I hope they're all engaged and they're all on board. They should be, because this is a win across the board.
Well, we were there last year trying to tell them they should get on board at that time, and they didn't want to hear it. So I don't expect there to be much of a change. I think it's going to be a wine fest.
Well, and that's why it's almost fun to just to go in there and watch. But I remember last year. Let's talk about it. Last year, you were, they were going to lead the march and the walkout if you came in, and you had, William, our great patriot who dresses up as, from the American Revolution. He was leading the booze, and we had from the stage, we had Tea Party leaders doing an hour rant about how horrible Donald Trump was. And so it's going to be really interesting to see this year. And Matt was never like that way. Matt and Mercedes Schlapp are as good as gold, and Matt can only do so much. I'm going to be really interested to see how this all works.
Oof. Have fun.
Tracy's
Thank
not
you. Well, I'll see you guys there.
Going to be there.
I don't think I'm going.
See, that's kind of how I feel. It's like I don't know if I want. I just don't know how I feel on it. So we will see.
I'm going just to see a little bit of the shit show, and then I'm going to head over to the MGM National Harbor Casino. It's really wild.
That thing is huge. Oh, my gosh, I did see that. That sucker is a whole beast. I don't think anybody will be at CPAC. I think they're going to be at the casino. I want to go see what it looks like.
Well, there you go. Come with me. We'll play some blackjack. Do you play blackjack?
I do. That's the one game. I can do that, and I can do the pulling the slot machine. That's about all I can.
Yeah, it's just skilled labor right there. I mean, you can master the slot machines. You got it down.
Hey, listen. I've got to make bail money here for my horrible injustice that I've caused.
How fast were you going?
You don't want to know.
Oh,
it's not good. It's not good. When you have lawyers say, yeah, you need to hire me, you know it's not good.
Oh, you're going 20 over?
You know what? Let's just talk about something else. How's the weather there?
Wow. Just show up to court. I've shown up and fought every speeding ticket I ever got, and they get thrown out.
I've never gotten a speeding ticket in over a decade. That's what's so crazy about this. I'm like, if I'm going to get in trouble, I want to be it for something good. Of all the trouble I've caused, I want something really good, not this. So there you go. There's my rant, my temper tantrum for the day.
Well, there you go. Well,
cool.
Scottie,
thank you for having me. I very much appreciate it.
We love having you.
Yeah, we love having you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, talk to you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks. Scottie Nell Hughes. Well, we got a couple minutes before we bring on our good pal Ashe Schow. Did notice in the Evernote that you posted a story regarding the limousine that our good friends on the left decided to destroy during their temper tantrum.
I love this.
What was the owner of the limousine happened to be Muslim?
Mohammed Ashraf.
Oops.
Yep. Blue on blue violence. It's a thing. It's a thing.
So I just assumed that limousine was parked, but apparently
he was dropping somebody off.
Yeah, dropping somebody off, and we can't stand the thought of anyone driving around with a chauffeur. They must be filthy rich.
Smash the bourgeoisie, yes.
Yeah, so you got to attack the people that were in the limo, and then you got to attack the poor schlep who's driving the vehicle. Because
who was anti-Trump himself.
Doesn't matter. That's what kills me. You're seeing there's a movement in Washington to try to get restaurant and bar owners to not serve anyone in the Senate or the House that is trying to push for an Obamacare repeal.
Do they want to repeal that part of the Civil Rights Act that they always accuse libertarians of being racist over, because we say you should be able to deny service to anyone you like because it's your damn business?
Yeah, and then on top of it, if the bar or restaurant owner does not agree to this, they want to start a boycott of that restaurant or bar, which really affects the employees.
Yes.
Hurts them, probably more than the owner, because the boycott will never last. But in the meantime, what will happen is these poor people who are working their asses off to wait tables and stuff, they're going to lose income. But that doesn't matter, right?
No. Just we don't ever have to think these things fully through fingers, right. Don't you know?
It's true.
I mean, come on. I found a piece in the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that's where it came from. It's on Philly.com, that I actually thought was quite brilliant. It was just an opinion piece, because we've got a bunch of Pennsylvania lawmakers off to jail. Don't you know? And we said, Shaka Fatah's supposed to turn himself in today. Hooray. But this is an opinion writer named John Baer, I guess is how you pronounce his last name. It's Baer. So he floated this idea that anytime one of our lawmakers has to go to trial and all this stuff and ties up taxpayer resources like courts and such things, that they themselves should have to pay for that.
Yes.
And if they can't, then their party has to pay for it.
That's brilliant.
I think it's genius. I absolutely love it. Like, let's do this. Maybe we can get some ethics. They'll enforce ethics amongst their members, so you don't have people taking bribes or stealing money.
Until you get a rogue prosecutor like you saw in Wisconsin that would just start trying to tie up resources of a political party based on how many people he or she will indict.
Right, but they could be held to that same standard as well. I mean, they're political, right? They're voted into office, so they come from a party machine. So go after the party.
Yeah. Well, were there any consequences to what happened to that prosecutor in Wisconsin?
I don't know.
Probably not.
No. We'll have to do a follow-up on that next week.
Yeah.
Do some in-depth digging. But just imagine if the Democrats had to pay all the court fees and fines and everything like this, because I think Shaka Fatah, I believe, got a fine additional to his 10-year jail sentence or whatever it was. He's not going to pay that back. You're talking about a dude that stole millions. You think how is he going to cough up another couple mil?
Amway?
Well, I mean, he could. I'm waiting for his wife to go down, because she was involved in all of this too. And she's got that local news money. She was our local news lady. Isn't that nice? Running interference for her husband on the news for all those years. And my favorite part of their scam was that she had a Porsche and they sold it. I'm doing air quotes to somebody. So they transferred the title, all that stuff. But the car stayed in the Fatah's garage.
Oh, that'll happen. So they probably sold a Porsche that was worth about $70,000 to someone for $300,000 and got to keep it.
Yeah, that's how it works. But she's totally clean. The reporting on it was classic. They were like, Renee Chenault Fatah sat in the courtroom looking on, dressed to the nines, just beside herself that her husband was going away to join her stepson in prison. Oh, poor Renee. She's just this innocent bystander. She didn't know that they were running these massive scams and stealing taxpayer money, and that should go to the children.
Didn't know about that Porsche in the garage?
Yeah, no. She didn't drive it again or anything. They just kept it. Well, it was a museum piece.
Yeah. You can walk into your garage and not see a car there.
For years.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Let's bring on Ashe. See if she answers her phone.
I bet you she will.
I bet you she will too.
Hey.
There she is. Ashe Schow from watchdog.org and the New York Observer joins us. Ashe, first off, I have to ask you, how was the New Jersey inaugural ball?
It was
fun. There was some boardwalk games that I was very bad at after I had, I don't know, 4 or 5 drinks. I'm not good at throwing things to begin with, but I am especially bad at throwing things after 4 or 5 drinks. There was also just tons of, like state fair, boardwalk type food. So little burgers, disco fries that I think is a New Jersey thing. I think it has like cheese and gravy on it. I'm not 100% sure what it was on it, but it was pretty good.
Cheese and gravy? That even disgusts me.
Well, I don't think it was a gravy. I think it was just melted cheese. I have no idea, but they're called disco fries. Whatever was on it was really good. There was, I don't know, some sort of brisket and pork and a lot of really good food and good alcohol. They had a drink. It was like a cotton candy drink, themed drink, and it had, I don't know, like vanilla vodka and like some juices and other liqueurs, and then they put a puff of cotton candy in it. That barely tasted like alcohol, was actually tastier than the wine they were serving. That was a really dangerous one.
Was Christy there?
And of course, remember, all of this is taking place while we're in, ball gowns.
Of course. Nothing says class like having a drink with a puff of cotton candy. Was Christy there or not?
No, he was not.
He's not allowed to leave the state, right? His wife said no.
Probably. Well, Trump probably said no.
No, that was one of the things that they said. One of the reasons, at least they're talking about at local Philly radio, because Jersey's basically part of Philly, that the reason he didn't take a cabinet position was because his wife said she didn't want him moving to D.C. She didn't want to go.
Huh.
So, which is fascinating because I don't know what they were going to do if he won the presidency.
Yeah. Right. Well, not only that, but I don't know. I thought Trump made it pretty clear he didn't want Christie around him. So,
yes. Yeah, this is spin coming out of them.
Is this like Christie's way? He's like, no. It's not that Trump didn't like me. It's that my wife is a controlling bit. Like, really, that's what he's going to try and go with, is like make the wife seem like a shrew. Like, good save there, buddy. Real smart move.
That was his save. And this is like the day after he was, he loves the Dallas Cowboys because everybody from Jersey loves the Cowboys, of course. My God. So he was in the owner's box at the Cowboys game. And then the next day that story comes out. And he talked trash on the Eagles.
So he was in Texas, but he's not allowed to leave New Jersey.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, nothing is not consistent. Mm-hmm.
Love for Cowboys in Jersey. My favorite phone bank story, when I was phone banking for John Runyon back in 2010, I called a house and I asked, are you going to be voting for John Runyon? And this guy just at like the top of his lungs was like, no, we're Cowboy fans. So
wow.
Fuck the Eagles. And I'm just like, okay, then you have a good day. Like, really? You needed to like yell that at a phone banker who this was me at like age 22, so I probably sounded pretty young. So it's like, really? Okay, dude, you really felt the need to yell that to a random young stranger? Okay.
That's Jersey. Yeah, we like the Cowboys in this house. I don't know what you're talking about. It. Never vote for that Runyon from the Eagles. No way.
Eagles.
Yeah. That's the Philly accent, South Jersey accent.
Yeah. It's not a good combination.
It's hideous.
I'm still trying to get over cotton candy drinks. More specifically, I wonder what cotton candy vomit tastes like.
Well, if you would like to try a drink with cotton candy in it, I believe TGI Fridays still does some sort of pink puff thing. It's like a martini, and they put a puff of cotton candy in it. I won a bet against a friend years and years ago, and we went to Fridays. Again, we were young, trashy South Jersey people, so Fridays it is. And so I made him buy me that drink so that his cab would say, one, I wanted that drink. I'm not even going to lie. I wanted that drink, okay? It looked delicious. It was bright pink. it sounded fruity and it had cotton candy in it. But it also meant that his receipt was going to say something like, pink puff martini.
I don't think anyone's uttered the sentence, "I won a bet, so we went to TGI Fridays." I think that's the first time that's ever been said.
Well, I added the caveat that we were young, trashy South Jersey people.
That's what you do. Yeah, fingers has
Like,
only been to
now,
Jersey
I would
once,
never-
I think.
Yeah, I would never think of doing that. But back then, we didn't make much money, so we went
That's
to...
a classy night out.
Right. Well, like, it was either expensive bars or a cheap restaurant with cheap food and, like, you, like, can't go to Philly, and there's really not a whole lot of options in South Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So
did
Jersey
they have
it is.
the waffle fry chili or whatever that was? What was it, gravy and cheese fries at the TGI Fridays? Do you
I
remember
don't
that?
know.
Oh.
I don't know. I had never ordered anything like that, so...
Okay, so the ball, what you're basically saying is the ball was a smashing success. Did you get any gravy on your gown?
No, but because my gown was covered in sequins, I did help rip a tablecloth a little bit, got caught
Nice.
on a thread, and I was pulling away. I got stuck to the cloth. I was like, oh, God, I just ripped this dress, and I was renting it. When a little bit later, I was looking, I was like, nope, I ripped the tablecloth with this dress.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I often wonder about if you guys have to go buy a dress or there are places, because obviously if I would have gone, I would, be able to rent a tuxedo, but I didn't know what the
Right. Well, there's
gowns.
now places where women can rent fancy dresses. So I now do that because you guys in DC, it's actually more cost effective to buy a tux because guys can just wear it and wear it and wear it and nobody's going to notice. But I have my Instagram photos in a really nice dress. I can't wear that everywhere. That like, oh, she has this one ball gown she wears everywhere. Like, it's noticeable. So it's actually, oddly in DC, more cost effective or, better for women to rent and men to buy.
Damn the patriarchy. So, were you caught up in the whole Women's March mess the following day, or did you avoid DC like the plague?
Well, I wanted to avoid DC like the plague, but I also wanted to go drink with Hungarians again since it worked. It was so fun the last time. So there was a brunch with the Hungarian ambassador to the U.S. at the new Hungarian Embassy. So I went to that, and there were some congressmen there. Governor Pataki was there, and I heard him give his speech, and he gave the best speech. It was like 45 minutes of speeches at this thing. I was like, it is brunch. It is a Saturday. I'm exhausted. It is Inauguration Day weekend. I have had multiple mimosas. I do not want to stand for 45 minutes listening to speeches. Most of the people I really couldn't even understand what they were saying, whether from being quiet or having a thick accent, so I couldn't understand anything. So I ended up sitting down, and about half an hour in, there's other people starting to sit down. And I was like, no, this is the first trendsetter there. But when Pataki spoke, he was actually really funny and interesting. And I was like, look, he might not have had much of a chance during the primaries regardless, because people forgot who he was. But if that Pataki had showed up to debates, he might have gotten out of the undercard for a debate like Carly Fiorina,
No, I was told that.
Yeah, I was shocked.
Supposed to watch for him.
Yeah.
He was going to be
Dark horse.
Yeah, dark horse, but never happened. He screwed up. He was a part of the building of the Freedom Tower, and that was a mess. So between that and I don't know if people were looking for another Northeastern Republican governor to run for president, even though they got a Northeastern Republican anyway. Still, I don't know if the rest of the country would have caught Pataki fever, but I'll take your word for it that, he can light up a room. I don't know. I wasn't there.
Also, when he was being introduced by one of the Hungarians, his name was pronounced as like Pataki. So I'm like, have we all been saying it wrong? Like, is that like, because this is the second Hungarian Embassy event that I've seen him attend. He was also
Hungarian?
out there. See, that's what I don't know. Maybe like has some sort of ties, because that's an odd thing for, you know, somebody to be really, really into Hungary.
Right, or then be really into Pataki. It's like the French and their Jerry Lewis obsession.
I was gonna go with David Hasselhoff and the Germans, but hey, you know.
Well, he's German, right? So, oh man, that's just so weird. Why do you keep going to the Hungarian Embassy? They got good drinks over there?
They do. Okay. I have a friend that does work with the embassy and some Hungarian think tanks, so like I'm not going to turn down invites to free, nice events.
Absolutely.
To embassy events.
I get it. I'd like to go. Does their accent sound like a Russian accent?
No.
Huh.
I'm not. Maybe if you like mixed Russian with German, I don't know.
Interesting.
I like the accent. Definitely. It's just, I really like it. It's a really nice accent.
That's why you're hanging around there all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe you could invite the Jersey guys over to the Hungarian Embassy and see what happens. Be like, well, bring Pataki.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what you've been writing about over at watchdog.org. Student group sues after members arrested for handing out copies of the Constitution. You wouldn't think that would be such a big deal, people handing out copies of the Constitution, but in some areas of this country, that's a no-no. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, so these students at Kellogg Community College, there was a young woman.
Really?
I'm sorry. Kellogg Community College, is that part of the franchise? Like McDonald's U?
Professor
kind of
Captain Crunch?
No, I don't think so.
No? Okay.
No. So there was a young woman, Michelle Gregoire, who wanted to start a Young Americans for Liberty chapter at KCC. And so she first was told that you need to have at least 5 people in order to get a recognized group. So she started trying to talk to people outside of classes, and she was told, no, you can't do that. You have to get a table in the student union in order to recruit people. Okay, so she does that. Well, then she tries to talk to people in the student. No. You're allowed to get a table, but then you have to sit at that table, and you're not allowed to shout at people to come over to try and talk to them, and you can't get up from behind that table to go talk to people. Now, according to the lawyers, other groups, liberal groups, were perfectly allowed to walk around and go up to people and shout and things like that. But, you know, whatever, there's a conservative group. So she obviously could not get 5 people to sign up when she's not allowed to actually talk to people. And so she reached out to the Leadership Institute, who knows how to do, you know, campus activism and organizing. So they put her in touch with a couple people that could help. So they started standing outside of classes with pocket constitutions saying, do you like liberty and freedom? And you know, they got, I think, a bunch of people to sign up then, like maybe 20 students or so by the time an administrator, they say, came over and was like, hey, you can't do this. They're like, well, I tried the table thing and it didn't work. And they're like, okay, well, how much longer do you plan to be out here? And they were like, oh, just a couple more hours. They're like, okay. Administrator walked away. Then shortly afterwards, another administrator comes and is like, no, you have to leave. And the Leadership Institute people were like threatened with being arrested for trespassing. And, you know, one of them ended up leaving. And the other 2, including the woman who was trying to start the chapter, ended up staying. and then they ended up being arrested for trespassing, including her being a student at the school, because the school has such strict rules about where you're allowed to get petitions signed, where you're allowed to do any sort of activity. And the place where they were doing it is one of the restricted areas, even though they had also seen, liberal students having petitions signed in that very area without incident.
Well, this is fun. So, I'm looking
Absolutely.
up, I'm looking up Kellogg Community College. And, it's a public college founded in 1956. The main campus is in Battle Creek, Michigan, which makes sense. So it's a public college, and I understand that they can enforce, they could tell people to get off the campus if they aren't students, but even though that kind of grinds me, because it's a public college and taxpayer money is going to it. But the idea that they arrested a student for trespassing, that's crazy.
Right. So after spending like 7 hours in jail, 7 hours in jail, the charges were dismissed, I think, with prejudice. And the judge was kind of like, are you kidding me? So now they're teaming up with the Alliance for Defending Freedom in order to sue the school, because even though the school was allegedly following its own policies, they're alleging that they're not constitutional policies.
Wow. So you can read about that over at watchdog.org. Ashe, are there any other stories that you've written or columns that you want to highlight before we let you go?
Yeah, there's a student is about to sue, and I don't want to go into a lot of details. You should read it at Watchdog because it's pretty lengthy. But basically, this guy and this girl had a flirtatious sexual relationship. The two were drifting apart because she wanted a relationship, he didn't, but they still met after the semester was over and had sex. They were doing it in the car, so somebody knocked on the window. The girl got embarrassed. She had claimed she had been in an abusive relationship before, so that triggered some thought of the abuse, and she started crying. And then they hang out for several hours more, and they take a long walk where she's apparently telling him all kinds of deep thoughts and feelings and stuff. And after they walked for a while, they sat down. He put his arm around her. I guess they were talking, and at some point he tried to make a move to restart the sexual activity by going up her shirt. She told him to stop. He immediately did. Then the next day she texts him saying this was some sort of betrayal. I can't believe you did that to me. I was sharing my thoughts with you, and then you went and did that. And then 16 months later, she decides to tell the school that he sexually assaulted her by, trying to grope her. She's saying that he sexually assaulted her. She's filing the report with the school. They send him through multiple trials, and he didn't have much of a punishment. They had they basically said don't talk to her, even though the two didn't speak for 2 years prior. But it was still you had to drag this kid through these year-long investigations and trials because he touched a woman he had been sexually active with on numerous occasions. And you're basically allowing this woman to believe she's some sort of rape victim because of that, which I think is honestly might be a bigger tragedy than what happened to the man, is the idea that our schools are furthering this idea that women should be so traumatized from something like that. You've had sex with a guy, so he wanted to have sex with you again, and now that's assault. Or your guy friend who you've spent hours hanging out with and laughing with, seemingly flirting with, tries to kiss you, and now you're supposed to have PTSD because of it, and to accuse him of sexually assaulting you because he didn't ask for explicit permission beforehand when he thought things were going well and that he could try and kiss you, and you're somehow traumatized by that. Like, that is a horrible thing to be doing to young women, to be telling them that they should be so traumatized in their life from things like that. And I mean, the fact that this is completely allowed is astounding to me and just tragic.
It's amazing to me how this has this mentality is starting to take over our young people. There's a message or a fan board of a podcast that I enjoy. Tracy knows which board I'm talking about, and affirmative consent came up. And you had these young people talking about how they've been married for years and they still ask for affirmative consent from their spouse before they have sex. And it's like, really? This blows my mind that you're saying that you still have to ask out loud your wife or husband if they are willing to have any kind of perform any kind of sex act with you before you proceed. It's mad. They just want to ruin sex for everybody, Ash. That's what it is. At the end of the day,
pretty much. I mean, I keep wanting to ask abstinence groups if there's been a bigger boon to them than what these supposedly liberal people are doing to sex right now. Because when you say everything is rape unless you treat sex like a question and answer session, then you're basically advocating for abstinence at this point. Because if you do have sex, it's rape. You're both a victim and a rapist every time you have sex. Because even the people that ask for explicit consent every step of the way, they could still be accused because, one, you haven't documented it. Like, the other person can just say, no, that didn't happen. The other person can say, well, I was drinking, so I couldn't consent. The other person can say, oh, well, I was on this medication, which could alter my mind, so I couldn't consent. The other person can, any number of things can negate the consent. And also, if you just don't ask enough times, honestly, if you're saying, oh, may I touch you here? Yes, but then you didn't ask if you could touch me here. And then you didn't ask back if you could touch me here, or if you could kiss me, or if you could kiss me more intensively, or if you could kiss me here but not there. You moved on. So you were kissing my neck, and then you moved down without asking. But then you moved down and you asked, but then you moved it further down and you didn't. Like, there's just, can I do this? Yes, kiss. Can I do this? Yes, kiss. Can I do this? Yes, kiss. Like, it's impossible.
Boy, that sounds
pretty
hot.
soon they're going to have chaperone dates. I mean, these are the neo-Victorians.
Right.
That's a whole new level of administrators that they need to hire at the collegiate level.
Right. Basically, sex is a contractual thing, not a passionate act.
Oh.
Follow Ash on Twitter at Ashe Schow. And again, you can catch all of her work over at watchdog.org and the New York Observer. Thank you so much, Ash. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Talk to you then. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Well, Tracy, anything else?
I've got tons of stories, but I'll sit on them.
You're going to sit on them?
I think so. I think we've talked enough, don't you?
Yeah, 2 hours.
Wow.
Probably enough. Where can everyone find the Enough Already podcast?
You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, and, of course, SoundCloud. Also, check out the Facebook page and enoughalready.com.
Now, we've had some people do us a solid, and they went over to the iTunes page for the Enough Already podcast and left us a review. Thank you so much for the people that have. If you haven't, what does it take, Tracy? Like 30 seconds?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, we just talked for 2 hours.
Right. 30 seconds.
Yeah.
5-star review.
I think it's fair trade. It's a fair trade. And you know what I'll do? I'll throw up the stories that we didn't talk about on the Facebook page.
There you go. So check that out. Well, thanks as always for tuning in for this episode of the Enough Already podcast. And we'll be back next week with an all new Enough Already podcast.